So, John,
Yeah?
why did the subscription butter company fail at email marketing?
I'm not sure why.
They had a high churn rate. You're listening to the Lion's Share Marketing Podcast for marketing leaders by marketing leaders. Brought to you by Fidelitas.co. All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 125 of the Lion's Share Marketing Podcast. I'm Tyler Sickmeyer from Fidelitas.co, joined by my wonderful co-host, the wizard, John Merlin, also of Fidelitas.co. John, we've got a great episode lined up for our listeners today. Curt Staubach, the director of marketing over at True Shot Gun Club, is going to join us and talk all things retention. So if you like that dad joke, stay tuned. We actually have some great retention marketing insights coming your way. But first, John, what's in the news?
News team, assemble!
So for this month, for the first time, direct-to-consumer brands can now buy ads on Amazon. That will drive traffic not to an Amazon listing, but to the brand's website. So, as we all know, Amazon is some users' first place where they look for a product. It's the Google of shopping almost. And so to be able to buy ads on Amazon that will drive you directly to the direct consumer's site is pretty cool and pretty exciting. However, we feel like there's probably too many clicks in order to get it working right now. Right now, it's kind of a little convoluted. You find the product, and then you click on it, and then you have to click on preview, and then you click on take you to the site, and then so there's a lot of steps involved. So I think you might lose some traffic that way when it comes to the customer journey standpoint. But the cool thing is you get kind of access to Amazon's ads, and it could be another vertical for you to advertise in and get some more revenue. And with Buy with Prime, it works. The reason you'd want to use that is because you can use Amazon's fulfillment. So you still get the 2-day shipping, and the checkout is all through Amazon. And I think people know and love it. The reason people keep going back to Amazon Prime is because they can get their packages in 2 days, which maybe, I've seen not all direct consumer brands offering that sort of, shipping or free shipping, or like I think Amazon crushes it when it comes to that. So it's a way to utilize that.
Yeah, agreed, John. So a couple of things to unpack here. Number one, if you're going to leverage Amazon for ads to sell through your own website, it's not much different than if you use Amazon to sell through directly. For us, we tell our clients to treat Amazon as a customer acquisition channel, not a customer retention channel. At the end of the day,
Right.
You want to nurture your customers and guide them gently back over to buying off of your website where the margins are much healthier. It always amazes me when a brand wants to stay on Amazon. Like, no, we like making less money. It's like, well, can we just move you and then charge you more? Like, we'll make it work one way or the other if you just want to make less money. But honestly, at the end of the day, with Amazon running the way they run, even if it's a little bit convoluted, it's still an intriguing option. And I'm bullish on it for a couple reasons. One, more options outside of the Facebook Google duopoly are going to continue to drive down ad prices across the board. We're looking at a year in which, John, there's probably going to be reduced ad spend anyways due to, one, the recession, and what I would consider an inappropriate and knee-jerk response, but still one that many brands will take, which is to cut back on ad spend in the midst of the recession. Two, we're going to see brands cut back on ad spend on certain channels due to a lack of clarity in attribution. If they don't have their attribution modeling figured out, or if they're not comfortable with a market efficiency ratio model and they want to live in the ROAS moment, that's going to be tough to do, right? And so you're going to see those brands cut back on spend. That's exciting to me because for everyone else that stays the course, like Fidelitas and our clients, you're going to see CPM and CPA rates drop on all platforms, especially with more options. So more options is good. It still is on the marketing leaders at their respective brands to figure out the best use of each specific channel. And again, like I said, Amazon is great for brand and product discovery. the fact that you can openly guide people back to your website with the ads, even if the CPA rate was a little high, it's still worth tracking to me. And really, if you look at it right now, there is no one of the issues with looking at your analytics and sales from social channels is it can be tough to unpack sales from ads versus sales from organic unless you're using third-party attribution tools that help provide a little bit more clarity there. With Amazon, you're getting no referral traffic, frankly,
Right.
at the end of the day. Right. So that's an interesting opportunity. Now, any referral traffic you get and conversions from that referral traffic, it'll be a pretty clear channel from a performance standpoint as far as whether it is or isn't working and what that CPA rate really boils down to and what your MER is at the end of the day on Amazon as a paid channel. So I'm incredibly bullish for both of those reasons. We'll be testing clients out on the platform sooner than later and highly recommend to the marketing leaders listening in here to do that as well.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
Absolutely, John. Let's get to our interview with Curt. All right, everybody, I'm excited to be joined by Curt Staubach, the marketing director of True Shot Gun Club. Curt, long overdue. Welcome to the Lion's Share Marketing Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. You could have been on with a number of brands that you've worked at in the past, and you're one of our unique guests that has worked both brand side and agency side. And we've worked with you at Fidelitas for quite a while, which I think is partly why I enjoy working with you so much, is the fact that you've been in our shoes, and so you understand both sides of the relationship, which is awesome. But Curt, for those that don't know True Shot Gun Club and may think that you guys are some piddly little range operation in Phoenix if they Google you, educate them.
Sure, absolutely.
Don't even humble brag, just brag.
All right, I'll see what I can do. So True Shot is Arizona's largest ammunition dealer. We're actually top 10 in the country, actually probably closer to like top 7. So we move a literal ton of product. We average probably 2 to 3 container loads a week of product coming in and then shipping back out. So in our space, you'll find a lot of companies who will do a lot of different things, be it firearms or accessories or things like that. All we do is ammunition. That's it.
Of course. And I hope you don't mind me disclosing this figure, but you guys have over 10.2 million with an M email subscribers. Not random lists acquired off the black market from Asia somewhere. No. Like these are legit email subscribers. So you've got one of the largest communities available from an owned media channel, which is incredible. Talk about what it took to get there.
Yeah. So when I started at True Shot, our email list was about at 160,000. And one of the interesting things about the firearms industry that some folks may or may not know is, like it or not, there's a lot of advertising channels that aren't really available to us. So like we can't very easily do like Facebook or Instagram ads, we can't do Google AdSense, there's some ways that you can kind of do some similar things, but it's difficult. So when I started, I was just like, hey, we need to grow our email list because that way that's something that we can kind of control, and we've seen it now where a number of times, some of the social platforms will just be like, nope, you're done, and they can just shut down our accounts. And so I just really made it a really big priority so we could kind of be the masters of our own fate, if you will. And so what I did, and just because I've been, in the firearms industry for a number of years, and I've, worked with a number of different companies, I was able to really say, all right, hey, where can we partner up on things? And so, in order to get to that, 10.2 million email list, it's just been working with industry partners, and other companies. And the big benefit of us just being ammunition is we're complementary with almost everyone else. There's almost no overlap in terms of competition or things like that. So it makes it really easy for me to come in, go to a number of different manufacturers and say, hey, like, let's do a contest or some cross promotion or something like that. And that's really how we've been able to build that list to that size.
That's awesome, and that's a big aspect that I think a lot of marketing leaders miss out on, regardless of whether or not you're in a restricted category. I don't care if you're talking about ammunition or if you're talking about a bag of potato chips. There's a lot to be said for establishing strategic partnerships. So talk about your process when it comes to setting up these strategic relationships with other brands.
So it's been kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now that we have that email list of that size, it makes the conversation a whole lot easier. It allows us to go to some really large companies in our industry and say, hey, would you like to work together? And they're like, your list is how big? What? Why, yes, I would. But prior to that, it was a matter of just networking. And, I was able to, go to companies that I had worked with in the past, and say, hey, what are different ways that we can partner up? Because my biggest thing is to say, I don't want to do just kind of a one and done contest and have that be the end of it. I'm interested in saying, hey, let's create some long-term, partnerships and figure out where we can work together, because at the end of the day, they need our product, we need theirs. So it's always an easy fit. It's being in ammunition, honestly, has been one of the easier parts of marketing in this vertical.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, like you said, when you've got the audience, that opens up a lot of doors. And I think that's a trend we're seeing in marketing at large right now is those who own an audience own potential and own the opportunity to grow. Those that don't are stuck trying to pay whatever fees the landlords of said audiences, i.e. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, et cetera, are charging at the moment, right? And sometimes we can acquire attention cheaper than other times on those platforms. That's why agencies like Fidelitas exist in large parts, because people need help doing so. But there's so much value in retention. I really want to dive in here because we've had the privilege of helping you guys out with the retention marketing channel for some time. Talk a little bit about how taking that list from, if you don't mind me saying this, when we started, it was definitely stale and possibly on life support to being a thriving channel that is today. Making that pivot and investing in that growth to get to that 10 million plus list, how has that impacted your overall marketing strategy, even beyond retention?
Obviously, there's some economies of scale there. The other thing that has allowed us to do, we've obviously grown our audience, but what that has also allowed us to do, and now that we have the data to do it, is we can really deep dive and look at, all right, the holy grail, and honestly, we're kind of about there, is to be able to say, all right, I know, this person buys this ammo every 2 months, So then, we're working together to set up workflows to just kind of, figure out different ways that we can incentivize those folks to buy, kind of give them reminders, and the other piece of that is when we look at, the different products that people buy, it may be as simple as just, when we send that email out, we're rearranging that content, based on what we know they're interested in, so it's things like that. It's also looking at, we're trying to push into some other segments. So like we've added kind of a knife section to our website. So it's, figuring out, all right, well, what customers do we have that have been looking at that information, that are already subscribers. So then we can, push customized promotions to them as well. Absolutely.
Really is important to stay on the cutting edge when it comes to retention and knife sales, for sure. So, with
ammunition, you have to stay on, you're on target.
Yeah, that's an explosive comment.
Oh my.
We could do this all day.
We could.
We might not have any listeners left, but we could do this all day. So, Curt, that's awesome. I would say for the marketing leaders listening in out there that may be saying, that's great, but my list wasn't or isn't 160,000 deep and stale. It's 1,600 deep and stale, or I've got 3 lists of 10,000 each in about 4 different places, and they've never really been engaged. So what would you say to someone that hasn't really made the most of retention marketing? Now they feel the pressure to, obviously, because everyone feels the pressure to make the most of every channel today.
Right.
How would you advise them to get started?
One of the fastest ways that we saw growth was doing contests and things like that. And again, I know I kind of talked about it before, but what we would do is using a platform, where you can set up contests. It's pretty easy to do, but whatever product you have, there's only kind of so much you can do. But for a number of times, we would partner with up to like 10 different companies. So if you do that, and now you've got this huge prize pack worth, a couple $1,000, it really incentivizes people to sign up. But the other piece to that is you've got 10 other companies that are helping you promote that, and at the end of that, everybody kind of gets a copy of that email list. It grows everybody's lists, and that's really, I think, one of the big things to do is just figure out, companies that are like-minded that you can work with. Because it is, if your reach, in terms of email or whatever is kind of small, figure out who you can kind of partner up with, to get out there and kind of get the message out, and then it just becomes about follow-up as well. We've seen a number of instances where folks will do contests or promotions or that kind of thing, but it's about following up, more than just, hey, like now I'm just going to, hammer you with whatever newsletter I have, put them into a workflow, because the thing that we've found a couple of times is, we'll do a contest, with a number of companies, and then someone will be like, where'd you get my email? And I'm like, dude, you signed up for our contest. And they're like, oh, right. So it's important to kind of have a follow-up to that, and say, these are some things you might be interested in. Thanks for signing up, for this contest. Those kinds of things really help, because it's about conversion. And I think that's also one of the big challenges that we see, especially with kind of the growth that we have, is, we've got, this huge subscriber list. Obviously math is going to say that, when you kind of start breaking down how many are engaged or highly engaged, obviously that number is going to be smaller, So that's also kind of that ongoing process to say, okay, what can I do to kind of, bring more people on, get them more engaged, and then potentially get them, to a buying customer, Along with that, you've got folks who just, fall off, they never do anything, right? And then you kind of have that decision as well. You're like, all right, do I trim back? Because guess what? Having a email list that size is not inexpensive, because you're paying for your list size and you're paying for sends, so you've got to balance that out as well. I know that's a good problem to have at the other end, right?
Absolutely.
But
as long as you're monetizing it, if you're leaving it sit there stagnant, then you're paying tens of thousands of dollars, and for what, right?
Exactly.
So that's the key, is it's got to make sense economically.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep. Good stuff. And that's actually a good segue. Curt, what is in your retention marketing tech stack?
So there's a couple of things kind of built into that. We've got a number of different workflows set up, really to see how we can kind of target different audiences. Because my thing too is, and again, the other thing that I'm really looking at is, for whatever reason, it's not really secret sauce, but it's been really interesting because historically, our average cart order is around like $330. We saw, during the pandemic and things like that, huge swings in the price of our products. It literally went up in some cases 10 times, and then there was also an issue of availability. Like, that was really strained as well, And so what I did is I really went through and looked and said, all right, hey, based on all those things, what happened to kind of the buying habits? And the interesting thing was, through all of it, the average cart total didn't really change. People just bought more or less, but they spent the same. And that was really interesting. And I think it's somewhat unique maybe for our kind of market. But we also saw that their buy frequency didn't change too much either, And so with that kind of information, it really does. It gives us a lot of power to be able to go in and say, all right, you know what? I know what you're looking for and how often. So I know what to kind of push to those folks, you know? And again, it's finding that balance. You don't want to be, you know, annoying or creepy or anything like that, you know?
Sure.
But it's just a matter of, I'm like, look, I know that, hey, you're primarily interested in, you know, product category A. So guess what? I'm going to lead with that, you know? I'm going to show you other stuff as well, but, you know, I'm just going to lead with that. So, you know, the kind of secret piece to that is that they don't know that it's necessarily happening.
Yeah, 100%. And again, really, what works for different companies isn't always the same. There's no one size fits all.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, I think it does come back to you have to understand your brand and your customer and what gaps you need to fill, where you're strong and where you need help, and then shop around a little bit, right? Like don't just settle on God forbid MailChimp. I think we've rescued you from MailChimp twice now,
Yes.
which is funny. So spoiler, MailChimp will not be sponsoring the Lion Share Marketing Podcast anytime soon. But that's the other thing too, is, you know, think about, like, if you're trying to have a Corvette brand, so to speak, and you're sitting there with a 92 Buick for your car that you're trying to get there with, it's not going to work. Like,
Right.
you've got to make sure, if you're talking about some of these sophisticated setups and segmentations and flows and campaigns and different things that are really going to push the brand forward in your relationship with your customers forward, you've got to make sure that your tech stack reflects that, and you actually have the capabilities to do that versus, well, we think that's coming sometime in Q3. You know, famous last words from every software provider's roadmap, right? Like, that's
Right.
so.
Right.
I think that's definitely a key piece of it. And Curt, just out of curiosity, completely unbiased question here: are there any agencies that you would recommend for retention marketing?
Let me think about that. I don't know, man. Maybe Fidelitas. They're pretty cool, I heard. I don't know.
Yeah,
No, but honestly, you guys have been amazing to work with. The fact that what I really appreciate about what you all do is, you know, right from the get go, you know, your primary focus is like, hey, you know, you're like, I want to learn your business. I want to understand, you know, how this thing works. You know, what are the challenges that we're running into? You know, and I really appreciate kind of how proactive you guys are. You know, you'll come in and say, hey, like, these are the things that we're working on. These are the things that we're seeing in the industry. You know, these are some things maybe you should be thinking about, or that we're seeing coming down the pipeline, just in terms of technologies or different features. And that's always been really helpful, you know. But it is the fact that, you know, how quickly, and it's challenging in our space, because what we've found is, you know, other agencies I've worked with, they don't necessarily understand our market, you know. And I've had in the past to spend quite a bit of time to kind of, you know, spin people up and ramp people up, you know. And a lot of it comes down to, and you can see it in any vertical really, but it's like, hey, you can't say this, you need to say this, you know. I didn't have to spend very much time, you know, with you guys, because you did your homework, you know, and I really appreciated that.
Thank you. I did not pay for this endorsement, but I probably should have. Goodness, God bless you, Curt. And Curt,
I'm just being straight up. I'm being honest, you know. I mean, that is one of the things I really do appreciate about you guys, is the fact that, you know, you're passionate about what you do, and you guys are knowledgeable, and you really do kind of dig in, you know, and help out.
That's awesome, and appreciate the kind words. Now, one thing we sort of skirted on with you a little bit is segmentation, and like you said, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, to hit every customer back personalized with 2 months after they purchase, you know, or based on their buying patterns, you know, being able to hit them, whether it's every 2 months or every 6 months or what have you per customer. Talk about how you got started with list segmentation, because you know, not to speak out of turn here, but there wasn't any when we started.
Right, exactly.
And so talk
we
about
started literally at ground zero, right?
Yeah. So talk about starting at ground zero with segmentation and how you got to where you are now and what next steps look like.
Right. So I think one of the big challenges that I've run into in the past, and you guys were really good about, you know, helping kind of steer this, but, you know, one of the challenges with segmentation is one, it takes a little bit to kind of get your head around, what it is, how to do it effectively. But what I found always happens is once you start getting into it, you realize how many crayons you really have in that box. And then everybody just wants to go nuts, and you want, 27 different segments, and then you're trying to write workflows out and you just end up with a mess, and so I think the key to it is to be very deliberate, start wide, figure out what are your major, demographics that you're going to hit that'll really get you a lot of bang for your buck early. Get those nailed down, get those working the way you want, and then, really start getting very granular in what you can do. And I think that, that approach has always seemed to work really, really well.
That's awesome. And you guys have a pretty aggressive send schedule. You're not just sending, one email a month. Well, like
right.
You're pretty aggressive with your frequency. Talk through, because again, we've seen brands do it really well and really poorly. Talk through how you keep your emails relevant and maintain those high open and click-through rates, even at a higher frequency.
It's a combination of things for us. We actually are fortunate in that our sales cycle for our customers is pretty high. Another company I was at in this vertical, the average time between purchases was 9 to 18 months. That's rough, So, the fact that it is for us, it's oftentimes, it's anywhere from monthly to, on average every maybe 2 to 3 months. And so that allows us to kind of do things. The other thing too is our company and our, product segment, honestly, it's very, how do I want to put it? It's driven by kind of what's going on, Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, it is. It really is unfortunate. But if there's, some things going on in the world, people get nervous, and so we'll see spikes. Or, there's things coming up, or people are concerned about different, new regulations coming down the pipeline or something like that. So we'll see huge spikes at different times, and so a key for us is always to be kind of ready for those things, and just to be able to kind of, work with that, and be able to supply our customers with product, when those come in. And along with that, it comes down to, in terms of frequency, it's watching what our customers are doing and what they want, that's kind of the other piece. That's one of the next pieces that we really want to kind of dial in, is to say, all right, is this person a once a week, email person? Are they a 3 times a week email person? Are they a once a month? That's really the next piece that we're looking at building out.
Absolutely. That's great. And what KPIs are you paying most attention to these days on your retention channel?
A lot of it's open is a little tricky just because of kind of what's going on with, iPhones right now. A lot of it really is going to be, our click rate. Along with that, we really try and dive down and look at, what, for each email, what are people clicking on? The other thing that I'm really watching is kind of how far down in that email are they going? That can vary. And so we kind of, at times, do, different iterations on our design and do some A/B testing to figure out, what can we do to kind of, get people, past kind of the, get past the fold, if you will. Right.
Sure.
So, it's those things. And obviously it is, it's, we're also watching product, we're seeing what's selling, for us, a lot of it is, cost driven. And because of, ammo is basically, you can think of it as a commodity market. So our prices change sometimes twice a day, which I think is somewhat unique. I know for a lot of other folks, that's not necessarily the case, right? They set prices for the year and that's kind of it. Ours change very frequently. And it's a challenge, but it allows us to really, kind of leverage that. So if I can go in and say, hey, we have the lowest price in the country on this, guess what? It moves, so yeah.
That's awesome. And Curt, a lot of great info here, but as I'm sure you know, because you've probably listened to 100 plus Lion Share Marketing podcast episodes by now, we always end every episode with one thing. So like if you were to give our audience one key takeaway from today, and just in regards to retention marketing at large, what would that one thing be for our audience today?
I would say be consistent and understand that it's a marathon, right? It's a race, but it's a marathon, and it's very important to be systematic and kind of disciplined in what you're doing. I've seen instances where folks will come in and, if they don't see the results they want, right from the get-go, then it's, scrap it all or start over. You know what I mean? It's
sure.
You've got to be very consistent. You got to have a plan. Like, look, this is what we're trying to achieve. Test it, A/B test it, figure out what works for you. Figure out what doesn't.
Yeah.
But be very, very deliberate and systematic about what you're doing.
Yeah. Amen. Well said. A lot of good nuggets today. Curt, appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on. I would advise all of our listeners, one, if you've never tried shooting sports as a hobby, go out to a gun range with someone that knows what they're doing, get certified in how to handle a firearm properly, and go learn. Even if you've never done it before in your life, it's the best thing to go do and get introduced to the sport. And if you're already an avid shooter, you already know the best place to get your ammo is True Shot Gun Club. Besides that, Curt, if anyone wants to follow you along, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So it is, in terms of social and that kind of thing, it's just going to be trueshotgunclub.com, and you can find us on Instagram, as well as Facebook and YouTube. Good luck finding us on Instagram. We're kind of shadow banned, so you have to type the entire thing in.
And I'll say this, by the way, get to their Instagram. We didn't really dive into this today, but they are phenomenal at their own content. So if you're looking for a brand that does social well, they do it in-house and they do a fantastic job. Go check out their social channels. And Curt probably has the best job ever because he literally gets to run around and pew things for fun and get a check for it. So he's living the dream.
Yeah.
He's living the dream. Awesome. Curt, thank you so much for coming on the Lion Share Marketing podcast. And we'll see you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, guys, that wraps up episode 125 of the Lion Share Marketing podcast. If you haven't left us a review or a thumbs up or a share or a comment on how much you like John's glasses, so now that we're on YouTube and you can see that he's wearing glasses, we'd love for you to do that. And remember, if you haven't already, go subscribe to our free newsletter. We drop marketing insights on the weekly. They're free. They're valuable. Go get them. Grow your business and your personal marketing knowledge and skill set with the Lions Share newsletter. And you can get that at fidelitas.co for free. Promo code, actually, who am I kidding? There is no promo code, John. It's just free. So go subscribe. And if you haven't already, we'd love it if you left us a like, comment, or review. And until episode 126, cheers.
You've been listening to the Lion Share Marketing Podcast, brought to you by Fidelitas.co. Get measurable results from a strategic partner, because winners keep score.